Guess we'll call our Federal Natural Resource Management Committee back into session here. Thanks everybody for coming and participating. The first item on our agenda is actually 1:30 oil and gas coal leasing update, and we've got the Petroleum Association and the Wyoming Mining Association. So since we've got the Wyoming Mining Association here already, we'll just go ahead and delve right in. Go ahead, Mr. Detai, and introduce yourself. Excuse me.
We were supposed to have Peter over in 30.
Oh, is that?
I don't know if he's online. Okay, he's not online.
I can go first, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to join you. I'm Travis Detai. I'm the Executive Director of the Wyoming Mining Association. It's always a pleasure to come in and address this committee and talk about something that's been in the news an awful lot recently, that of coal leasing. And Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, if you would just indulge me for a little bit, what I'd like to do, and especially for some, newer members of the committee that may not be as familiar with the process of coal leasing and the lease by application process, I've got a couple of little things that I'll just kind of walk you through, just from a 1,000-foot level of what it takes in the leasing process. The term that we sometimes use is concept to shovel, which is a very long and complicated process. Almost all of our coal that we mine in Wyoming is federal coal, so we have to lease it. It's owned by the federal government. And the way that process kind of works from the big picture is when you start, you have the concept that you want to mine. A company will come in, they will obtain an exploration license from the BLM, and that will be the purpose of exploring and finding out where you want to do your leasing. That can take up to about 2 years. The next process is to obtain a federal coal lease from the BLM. And the way this process works, the BLM will receive an application from the company. This will go through a series of steps to see if it's viable. The state director of the BLM will notify the governor and the regional coal team of the application. Then the field office manager will ensure that the application is in conformance with the land use plan that's in place at the time. The mineral staff will then receive the application and prepare a report on maximum economic recovery. And this is kind of where they're looking at the market value and what they expect the company to pay for the coal. If the lease package is found in non-conformance with the land use plan or any of other things, it is tossed out. And then it goes back to the drawing board. But if it is conforming with the land use plan, the field officer, the field manager will prepare a site-specific environmental analysis, and then they will hold public hearings. The applicant will then submit, and an adjudicator will review the surface owner consent agreements if necessary. The state director will consult with the Surface Management Agency, the governor, the attorney general, and the Indian tribes, and then will issue a decision on the lease, whether to hold the sale or whether to reject the applicant. Now, this process could take up to 4 to 7 years. Once that lease is accepted, then you go through your permitting process with the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality, the Land Quality Division, and go through all your steps where you get your sign off with the Water Quality Division, the State Engineer's Office, the Game and Fish, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the State Historic Preservation Office, the U.S. Forest Service, if applicable. Again, there's always opportunity for public participation, including protest and objection. And this takes another 2 to 3 years. And then the final action is the issuance of a permit to mine in Wyoming. We run our coal program. We have primacy. It is overseen by the Office of Surface Mining. But then once you have that permit to mine, you have to obtain other federal mine plan approvals from the Office of Surface Mining. And then if necessary, you might have to obtain special use permits from the U.S. Forest Service, for example. So my point in just that little 1,000-foot view is it's a very long time from concept to shovel. The total elapsed time can take anywhere from 10 to 16 years. The last lease that was approved, which I believe was in 2012, that was about a 12-year process. So that brings us kind of where we are today, where we've had very little leasing activity for coal in the state of Wyoming for quite a long time, over a decade. We've had a number of little lease modifications with some program amendments. Those were largely held up, and some of them have been held up for a very long time under both the Trump 1, Biden, some even going back to Obama. What we've seen here in recent weeks, and things are moving very fast. And I will just kind of interject right now. The new administration has a very, very different set of priorities than the previous administration, and things are moving very fast. We have seen a 180-degree shift in energy policy in this country, and that's a good thing. It's good for Wyoming. It's good for the country. We've seen, I think, where the focus on energy and all that works strategy, going forward, there was a recent report from the Department of Energy, probably in early July, commissioned by S&P Global, a pretty reputable outfit. And some of the results in that were pretty startling. And one of those was future demand based on the needs of growing AI, data centers, general electrification. A report came out just today from Energy Information Administration noting a significant rise in just home heating, where natural gas is kind of the number one thing that folks use for heating their homes. There's a trend towards increasing electric heating. So you got to have that. You got to have the power to generate that. Electric vehicles and other things. The demand for energy is going to be significant. And the report concluded that by the year 2040, 15 years away, energy demand in this country for electricity could increase between 35 and 50%. Now that's significant. And the fact of the matter is we can't power our country where we are today. We just can't. So the shift from the administration, and they're taking this very seriously, to an all-that-work strategy. You're going to need coal, you're going to need gas, and you're going to need nuclear. And in Wyoming, when we're a lot of talk about nuclear, we've got the uranium assets. We want to see those pushed off into viable nuclear projects. It's not going to cut into our coal, because you're going to need both, and you're going to need a lot more of both. So again, that kind of brings us to where we are today. And when I mentioned the leasing activity of some program amendments, some of these have been held up, and the administration has cleared a couple of significant ones in Wyoming. One at the Black Butte coal mine that we've been fighting on for years, finally got approved. And that's one that's been sitting out there so long. That's cost jobs already. You got another one with one of the NTEC mines up in the Powder River Basin, and we still have one hanging out there at the Buckskin mine up in the Powder River Basin. So we've seen that, and that's basically the leasing activity for the last 12 years. So when we come right now that and there's been some significant progress and some significant moves from the administration, to get our leasing activity going, because we're a decade and a half off the field. And again, when you look at that timeline of what it takes to acquire a lease and go from concept to shovel, we are really behind the eight ball, We've got about 3.2 billion tons currently under lease in Wyoming. The majority of that is in the Powder River Basin. And if you kind of judge, look at what we've used, what we've mined here in the past few years, just use roughly the $200 million or the 200 million ton per year mark. That's not going to last long when you look at the projected demand that we're going to need. And one of the things that's a little bit misleading when you say you have 3.2 billion tons under lease, not all of that coal is recoverable. When you lease a parcel, you lease the whole thing, but you might have a tract of that lease that runs under a railroad track that you can't mine. You might have some that goes a little bit deeper that's not economical to mine at the time. So the 3.2 billion tons doesn't necessarily mean you're going to mine every single ton of that coal. So the administration and a lot of the work was done, the excellent work done by the Wyoming Energy Authority. We did petition and work very hard for an adjustment in the federal royalty rate. It was 12.5% is what it has done with the big beautiful bill. We got that lowered to 7.5%. And then with the work that you did over the past couple of legislative sessions with lowering the severance tax rate in Wyoming from 7 a couple of years ago down to 6, where we're now with parity with oil and gas. These things do a couple of things. Number one, they increase our competitiveness. For the longest time, and again, we're not operating in the early 2000s anymore, where coal is over 50% of the energy mix, and we're harvesting it faster than we can, 460 million tons. The market has changed significantly, largely due to low-cost gas. And so these little things like the lowering of the royalty rate and the severance tax, that has made, overnight you have made Wyoming coal more competitive. And as of today, the demand is quite strong. We're up about 5% of over where we were last year. And again, companies and utilities are looking down the line. They don't think in yearly terms. They think 5, 10, 15 years down the line as to what they're going to need. We're seeing coal-fired power plants that were projected for early retirement. We're seeing those move back. That's a very good sign. And again, it's because of this projected demand that we're going to need to see from the data centers, from the AI, and from other things. We've got to have every asset on the table to power this country. And if you would have asked me a year ago, the projections of, what's the possibility of anybody building a new coal-fired unit, I'd say, yeah, probably not. That's changed, and I don't want to be Pollyannish, but I think that it's possible that we could see some new coal units built and come online in the next decade because the dynamic has significantly shifted. So with the leasing activity, and we did see, and I can't get into the significant details, I think, on some of the recent sales that have come through, the first in 12 years. The Antelope sale has been put on hold. And I think that's probably, one of the things that, when you look at the Montana Spring Creek, that was a pretty surprising bid on that coal. And I think what we're going to deal with, because again, things are moving very fast. And I think you've got to understand that since we haven't done it for such a long time, there's been, been a retirement of a lot of institutional knowledge from folks in the agencies and the companies that used to work on those leases that have, moved on over the last decade. So I think there's going to be a learning curve, as we start trying to get companies to put in some new leasing packages and bid on some new leasing packages, figuring out what exactly the fair market value of the coal is today, considering the current market conditions, considering the projected demand and the absolute need to mine more federal coal so that we can power this country. And then, of course, the significant shift in the regulatory regimen and the energy policy in this country. So, and overall, like I say, this administration is moving very fast. And there are a lot of moving pieces right now. But I think, for the short term and then hopefully looking into the long term, the picture is much brighter than it was a year ago. Elections have consequences. And so that's kind of where we're at. And then I hope that kind of sets the stage for you, Mr. Chairman and Representative Wharf, for some of your questions for the discussion today.
Thank you, Mr. Detai. Committee, questions? Senator Dockstader.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Detai, do you have anything on, you talk about projected demands. Do we have anything that shows an estimate?
Mr. Chairman, I can find that link from that study from the Department of Energy, and I can get that to the
That'd be
committee.
good. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that.
Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you bounce back a little bit? You said we have primacy in the state of Wyoming on permitting. Could you go in a little more depth there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the state of Wyoming, the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality, we have a primacy agreement so that we are the primary regulator for our coal mining program, our coal recovery program. It's obviously, you have to pass muster with the Office of Surface Mining, but we have a primacy, we do it. We run our coal program. And that's all run out of the Department of Environmental Quality, mainly the Land Quality Division. And it's similar Mr. Chairman, similar Representative Davis with our uranium recovery program. We are an agreement state and we have primacy over our uranium recovery program. You know, it's kind of overseen by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, but we run that here in the state. And we also, in this body, the legislature has passed some language too, so that we will have primacy over our rare earths recovery as well when we start pulling that out of the ground.
Follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What other minerals do we currently have primacy as far as the regulatory?
Mr. Chairman, that's a good question. You know, I kind of stay in my lane on some of that stuff. I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that. I can certainly reach out to the department and see what they do, but I think those may be the only two. And I might actually phone in a friend. Wendy, are those the only two we have primacy over, coal and uranium? Oil and Gas Commission does oil and gas. You can ask that question to my friend Pete when he gets on. And Mr. Chairman, the benefit of that is you have your guys on the ground here. You have Wyoming people working the Wyoming issues, and it's much closer to what we're doing here, and streamlines things quite a bit. And you know, I can just go back just a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, when the Nuclear Regulatory Commission was still in charge of the primary regulatory regimen for our uranium recovery. You know, they're charging their stuff for their stuff. The state's still doing their stuff, and they were basically, we were basically paying twice as much as we do now. And our uranium recovery program is actually funded by the uranium operators. That's not a budget item for you guys. The uranium operators pay for that on a fee program. Not quite the same with coal, but you know, that's the benefit of having primacy, is having the regulatory regimen right close to you. And you know, you can get your permit coordinators on the phone. You can work through issues, and you know, the industry in general has a very good working relationship with our state regulators.
Follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One more. Are you aware of any shovel-ready type permits that are sitting out there that could be activated relatively fast, or is such a thing exist?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Davis, we've got a lot of permits that are getting worked right now. Some are more shovel-ready than others, but I don't think, you know, when you talk about the term shovel-ready, kind of in the broad context that it's always been used, can you go right in right now and sign a paper and go to work? I don't think there are that many in Wyoming, if there are any at all, but we've got a lot of permitting work going on right now in a lot of space.
Good. Representative Wharf, Co-Chairman Wharf.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I was just, you talked about how this administration has been very supportive and things are going very fast. Are you experiencing lower down the food chain, any resistance, any people that might still be in the system that are trying to impede that progress from being implemented fully?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Wharf, that's a really good question. We have encountered some of that in certain situations, but the administration has been very clear that when our operators encounter that, we have got contact information to get in touch with them, and they have committed to solving the problems. And we've seen some of that.
Follow up.
And I would say, you know, it would be helpful. I know we've got an acting state director of the BLM. That's a good thing. We need to get someone permanent in there, and we need a BLM director. And that's one of the things we're really pushing for at the federal level, and trying to find that person that would fit the bill and, you know, would be willing to work. We want someone from the West, preferably from Wyoming. someone that knows public lands and is from a state with a lot of federal land. That's proving to be a little bit tougher than we had hoped, but getting that person in place is critical. And we're really working with the delegation and folks in my sister states and our sister states to try to make that happen.
Follow.
Yeah,
Chairman War.
thank you. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit too about what the impact, I mean, right now the government is shut down. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, I would assume the BLM was invited, they couldn't come because they're shut down, but how does that affect your industry when we have a situation like this where DC can't get their ducks in a row? And it has impacts on us? Is that a real thing, or is it like in my head that that's an impact?
Mr. Chairman, Co-Chairman Worf, it is a concern. It could be if this drags on, if the shutdown drags on, it could become more of a concern. Right now, the Interior Department has some guidance out as to, I hate to say who's essential, who's not, but certain things that are supposed to continue under the shutdown. And again, depending on how long it goes on, that may be curtailed, but things such as immediate safety concerns, like for instance, from MSHA, those inspections, some of those are continuing. The lesser important ones are not. There is some permitting activity still continuing, but again, depending on the duration of the shutdown, we could see some of that close down too. And of course, we need fully functioning regulatory agencies. And if you're dysfunctional, like Washington, D.C. is, and it's going to result in delays. And of course, time is money. And so there are those concerns out there. I don't think we're absolutely panicked yet about the BLM being shut down. But it could be, as we were talking a little bit offline, with the pending lease sale which has been delayed. I think it's fair to say that maybe some of that is due to the government shutdown, that we'll have to wait on that and see where they go on that. So yeah, yes, when the government is shut down, it causes concern.
Representative Warren.
Do you think the state could run our extraction of coal leases or other mineral leases so that if we get in a situation like this again where we have a shutdown, we don't need to be as concerned about those impacts? Is that a fair question?
Mr. Chairman, Co-Chairman Worf, I see where you're coming on that. We run our coal program anyways, but on the leasing side and the work done by the BLM, and I would probably get Director Parfit breathing down my neck if I spoke for them, but people in Wyoming do good work. And, you may have to hire some folks, you may have to bump up a budget a little bit, but and again, I would probably defer to the director on that and whether they wanted to even dip their foot in that pool. But I would just say, as a whole, we do things better in Wyoming.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, follow up.
And that's what I'm trying to get at, because I do think, maybe early on in statehood, maybe we weren't mature enough to walk and chew bubble gum.
Yeah.
I think the state now is at that stage where I think we're capable of doing that. And I just look at, the perceived impacts. And I mean, I think more, what I'm thinking is not so much the mining, but like the safety stuff. If we ever get to where we don't have the inspectors in our mines, that definitely, because I would assume, and this is me assuming, but I would assume that if that happens, the people, especially if it's an underground mine, they're not going to do any work if they don't have some assurances that they have safety measures in place that are being followed.
Yeah, you need those folks to do the job. They need to be on the job.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Committee. I've got just a couple of questions real quick. Representative Larson, Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said.
Another day.
Wait, if I could just step in front-
Senator Dockstader.
Then I'll get out of your way, Mr. Chairman, but, and I know, Mr. Detail, you're all about mining, but would you offer an opinion on the potential for a coal port for a Wyoming product?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I can opine on that. Again, if you would have asked me a year ago, I would say the window was almost closed, not completely, but almost closed. With some of the stuff that we've seen and the decision in California and Oakland, I would say the door is back open again. And I think that, and I'll back up a little bit. We've kind of been working with our colleagues in Utah, looking down in Mexico at the Port of Guaymas. The state of Utah has money set aside to look to developing capacity down there to move coal and, well, specifically their coal. But they had reached out to us to see if we would be interested, the state of Wyoming would be interested. And we've had some conversations with those folks from the governor's staff. And, that was, it kind of piqued a lot of little interest. Subsequently, with the decision out of Oakland, where that might be a possibility to move some Wyoming coal and some other commodities as well. And, some gas and some oil. And again, I bring those discussions have had new air breathed into them. So we may have some opportunity to get some stuff offshore.
Follow up?
Yeah, follow up, Senator Dox.
If that were to happen, do you have any projected revenue possibilities? A long time ago, I brought our two governors together, Wyoming and Utah, to discuss the early possibilities. Both were optimistic, but then other things happened. Is it possible that you might have some projected revenues if we were to have a port facility?
Yeah, I'll have to leave it to smarter people to calculate revenue. But when we were having these port discussions earlier, when there was a real opportunity that we could move stuff off the Pacific Northwest through the Millennium Bulk Terminal, I think it was, their original phase, they could move maybe 20 million tons of Wyoming coal out of that port. And then once their expansions were complete, upwards of 35 million tons. I'd have to break out a calculator and do some math on that. But in terms of tonnage, 30 million tons, 20 million tons is significant. And if you could, if you could do something out of Oakland to where you could, again, get that capacity that you needed to move 20 million tons out of Wyoming, that's a pretty spicy meatball. Again, it's not, early 2000s when you're talking 400 million tons, but 20 million tons on top of, an average of 200 million tons a year. That's pretty significant.
Thank you. Senator Larson, do you have anything online?
No, I'm good. Thank you, though. That was a good
You're
question on the California port. I'm glad Senator Dockstader got that.
I miss you, Senator Larson.
Yeah.
Couple of
Thanks.
questions. First off, you mentioned, waiting on a BLM director, hopefully from Wyoming. Have you got an application in for that job?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think you could pay me enough to do that. You couldn't even pay me enough to consider that job.
Next question. You mentioned primacy on nuclear. I want you to expound on that a little bit. We had a bill this session, and it looked like we were deferring all of our authority to the NRC. And I don't know if that was specifically for, spent fuel rods, the waste, but I had a real problem with that. A lot of other people did as well. Could you comment on how we get away from just there again, letting the feds rule the roost on everything we do in this state?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So we have primacy over our uranium recovery. So we actually have the primacy on the mining side.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the other stuff, such as the spent fuel storage or the transportation, I don't think we have the capability in the state to do that right now. I mean, if the state wanted to pursue that, again, you would have to staff up with the expertise and put the money into it. So
Why wouldn't we do that? Just a question.
Mr. Chairman, I will defer that to you. Again, I say that we do things better and why, and you know, I think it's federal law that we can't right now. The federal law that, under the the Atomic Energy Act, I don't think we have the capability of
Right.
doing that. So, you know, something would have to give, and I don't know whether that would be well, it would have to be a statutory change at the federal level. But, you know, if anyone wanted to pursue that, like I say, we do it better in Wyoming.
Yeah, well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
On, yeah, back to Co-Chairman Worf's comments, you know, we kind of have the wind at our back there again with a sympathetic administration back in Washington right now on, you know, energy streamlining things, getting permits out, less regulation. But, you know, 10 years down the road, that may look different. I mean, that's why we've got this draft legislation here to maybe insulate ourselves from those situations where we just get moratoriums, executive orders at a whim the day after they take office and they shut down our, you know, our whole legacy minerals industry. I think it's something we should address. And would you agree?
Mr. Chairman, I would absolutely agree. And I think what you're seeing now, what's happening today, you know, you got to make hay when the sun's shining. And so a couple of the things, particularly with moratoriums and some of the things that the Trump administration is doing a little bit differently than they did before, is looking to codify some of this stuff so that it's not, so you take the ping pong ball effect of the regulatory process out of it. And, you know, I think it was just 2 days ago, the delegation did a Congressional Review Act on the Buffalo RMP, which is pretty unusual. I don't know if it's ever been done before with your Congressional Review Act, a resource management plan, but would take the leasing ball off the field to where if it were to pass, future administrations couldn't come back to that just under the rules of the Congressional Review Act. So they would have to come back and do a resource management plan that was significantly, it couldn't be similar, in other words. You know, and we've seen that done before with things like the stream protection rule, where we got that Congressional Review Act a few years back. And so that one's off the table for the agency to come back with a similar rule. So you're seeing that being done today at the federal level. So yeah, make hay while the sun is shining. And because you're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman. You know, I'm in this business a long time, and I think I've seen at least 3 permanent majorities in Washington, D.C. Nothing's permanent. And, you know, who's to say how things bounce? And, you know, in 3.5 years, we could be right back where we were before. So we've got to do what we can to protect ourselves now.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I won't belabor it too long. You know, I look at the federal mineral royalty dollars that we've brought in over, you know, since 1920s. And, you know, in the early 2000s, we were bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars of just pure coal leasing. And now it's a big fat goose egg on the chart. And that's hurting our state.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll just, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just a little correction on that. So you're still bringing in a lot of federal mineral royalties, and you're going to continue to as long as you're mining coal. What's gone to the goose egg is the bonus bids.
That's right.
Yeah, and the bonus bids are, you know, that's basically the way I like to describe it. That's the price of the coal. So, and again, for newer members or that not, when a lease is accepted, say for instance, we're going to say 100 tons of coal for $1 a ton. So that would be $100 for the price of the coal. Once that bid is accepted, the coal company pays 1/5 of that right then and there. They bring a check and you've got $20. And then for the next 4 years, you pay the rest of that bonus bid, 20, 20, 20, until the full $100 is paid. That comes with leasing the coal. So you've got to be able to lease the coal to get those bonus bids. And again, you know, the value's got to be, you know, are you going to see, you know, 400 million tons tracks of coal for $1.20? Probably not. You're probably not going to see $1.20 coal, but it's going to be something less, but you're still going to get that. And again, probably won't be as much as you did back in the heady days when we were mining that much coal, you know, 50 million tons. when coal's providing 50% of the electricity in this country. But my point on that is, you know, whether you lease the coal for $1 a ton or whether you lease it for 50 cents a ton or even a quarter a ton, and the lease goes through and then a mine starts developing that, you're going to start getting the royalties, you're going to start getting the taxes, you're going to start getting the fees from that, you're going to get the bonus bid from it. Even though it may not be huge, you're still going to get it. And more importantly, what I think is you're going to have to hire people to mine the coal. You're going to have jobs. So the flip side of that is when you don't lease the coal for whatever reason, you know, whether it's a moratorium to keep it in the ground or whether the cost of leasing the coal is too high that a company can't develop, nothing from nothing is nothing. And it's really that simple.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Detail.
Appreciate you, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
thanks for your
members of the committee.
testimony. Do we have Mr. Overmuller on Zoom? No? Time do we have here? Any public comment on this item on our agenda? Nobody online? Wow. Looking good here on a Friday afternoon. So I guess if LSO, I guess we go to committee directives on, any directives on this discussion? Committee?
I think we're addressing it, but the stuff we got.
Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. So, Talise, thank you for coming up. And if you want to go over these two bill drafts that we have and on the agenda, and then we may, as we alluded to earlier in the meeting, we may bring up the Good Neighbor bill and have a little discussion on that we passed through committee here last time we met. Thank you, Talise. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Talise Hansen, Staff Attorney LSO. I'll be presenting both these bill drafts. I'll start with 26 LSO 204, State Management Federal Mineral Leases. So this bill draft was drafted at the direction of Chairman Ide for the committee's consideration. So walking through the bill draft, this bill draft is a joint resolution requesting Congress to introduce a bill and enact law to amend the Federal Mineral Leasing Act to authorize the state of Wyoming to administer and manage oil, gas, and coal leasing on federal lands located in Wyoming. So just some brief overview of what's in this joint resolution. Page 1, line 6 through page 2, line 7 discusses the Mineral Leasing Act, which authorizes the leasing of federal lands for the exploration and development of minerals owned by the United States, including oil, gas, and coal. Page 3, line 9 through page 4, line 7 discusses the history of coal leasing, including prior coal leasing moratoriums. Page 4, lines 9 through 16 discusses the pause on new oil and gas leasing on federal lands that occurred in 2021. Page 4, line 18 through page 6, line 6 discusses oil and gas lease sales that occurred from 2022 through 2024 on federal lands in Wyoming. Page 6, lines 8 through 14 discusses President Trump's executive orders to increase and encourage energy exploration and production on federal lands, including oil, gas, and coal. Page 6, line 19 through page 7, line 14 discusses the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and its provisions for oil, gas, and coal leasing. Page 7, line 16 through page 10, line 10 outlines reasons why Wyoming should administer and manage oil, gas, and coal leasing on federal lands located in Wyoming. Page 10, lines 15 through 19 requests that Congress introduce and enact legislation to amend the Mineral Leasing Act to authorize the state of Wyoming to administer and manage oil, gas, and coal leasing on federal lands located in Wyoming. And I'll stand for any questions on this one before moving to the next one.
Committee. Questions? Yeah, Talise, I think you did a real good job there. Just to comment on that, given the history of the moratoriums and the oil and gas leases that were available relative to years past where we had hundreds of thousands of acres and we went down to hundreds of acres. And just a little backdrop, after we left our last meeting, I talked to Talise about including this maybe in our federal mineral royalty. She said, it probably ought to be a separate bill. And so I talked to Co-Chairman Worf and said, and I asked Talise, is that kosher to go ahead and get a bill draft done to discuss that here at our next meeting? So that's why we have that. I think, personally, I don't know why we wouldn't do this. I mean, it's just more autonomy for the state of Wyoming. Whether we get there or not, you have to ask to receive. And I don't know why we wouldn't want to control our own destiny on our oil and gas and coal leasing. And if somebody has any comments that would refute that, I'm happy to listen to them. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Delise, in your research, any other state had ventured down this road?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Dockstader, I did not come across another state, but I just briefly researched this topic to put together this joint resolution, but I did not come across another state.
Co-Chairman Worf.
That's exciting. This looks like this could be another first for Wyoming. We've led this nation on a lot of different things, but I guess, I know we got to take public comment. When it comes down to our directives, I have some things I'd like to say about that. But I also wanted to echo Bob. I think this is a great resolution, and I stand behind it. I think it's something that we should be doing, but I'll reserve my comments for after the public comment period's closed.
Just a quick check, Mr. Chairman. I know
Senator Dockstader.
in the popular phrase is one big beautiful bill, but that's formally what it is in statute. That's
is.
what we call it.
It
Okay,
is.
all right,
One-
just double checking.
Yeah.
So much media coverage, everybody was using that name. I didn't know it was formally that. Okay, thank you.
Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There, when we're referencing the president's executive orders, should we have those orders listed? I mean, executive order seems to be pretty broad. I think do we have a more precise, what executive orders to address this resolution?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Davis, there were two executive orders. I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but if the committee would like to add those numbers, that is an amendment that could be made to this resolution.
Thank you. Does that help, Representative Davis? Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Is there any public comment? Anybody online? Yeah. Committee, what's your pleasure? Yeah.
Mr. Co-Chair.
Go ahead, Co-Chair Worf.
Yeah, I would like to move this for the committee and would ask for a second and discussion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Senator Larson. Guess we'll work the bill. Work the bill draft.
Yep.
Representative or Co-Chairman Worf.
I just, I think nothing would be neater than if we were to be able to take this and get everybody in the House and everybody in the Senate to sign on to it. And I think the only way that's going to happen is as a body, we're going to have to talk to the people that we know in the legislature, and some might be some gentle persuasion, some might be some arm twisting, but I think as big as this is, I would like to have the majority. I'd love to have this passed with 62 ayes and 31 ayes in the Senate. And I think this is setting a new course, but I do think that Wyoming's always led in the past, and I think this is a topic that we should continue to be leading on. And so that's kind of what I would challenge the select committee to actually take this on and make it one of our priorities to get it. And it is just a resolution, but I think it's important that we speak with one voice. So I guess that's one thing I would like to, I know I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to get everybody I can. And I guess I may be enlisting some of your help in the House. And if we need to come over in the Senate, maybe we'll swarm the Senate.
Thank you, Representative Wharf. Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, on page 1, line 13, we include phosphate, potassium, sodium, oil shale, etc. But yet that's the only place it's referenced throughout the rest of the bill. It's not. Are we just, I guess I'm a little concerned that we don't carry that reference continually throughout the bill when we just address oil and gas and coal. It seems that we're asking for more, if I'm following this at all.
Yeah, go ahead, Talise.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Davis, that part was just giving some background in the resolution about what the Mineral Leasing Act covers, that it covers energy minerals, including oil, gas, and coal, and it also covers solid leasing minerals, including phosphate, potassium, sodium, and oil shale. It was just some background information in the resolution. But that is up to the committee to decide if they would like to keep that in there. But the joint resolution is specifically talking about the authority for the state to manage oil, gas, and coal leasing specifically, as that was the direction of the co-chairman.
Representative Davis.
Some follow-up then, Mr. Chair. Since the state, what I gathered from, we have primacy over those 3 areas currently, what are we looking to gain by this resolution? Is my question, you know, if I understood Wyoming oil or mining over there, what?
Yeah, I'll
Mr. Detail.
kind of chime in on that. So essentially, what we're trying to maybe avoid is these moratoriums, these RMPs, maybe basically government shutdowns like we're in right now in particular, where we don't know how long it's going to go on. And Wyoming could, you know, in essence, carry on as a sovereign state without waiting for them to open an oil and gas lease sale up or a coal lease sale up while they're shut down, or an executive order like from the Biden administration where they essentially put a moratorium on any further oil and gas leasing until they got a lot of pressure from some of the energy centric states. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a way for us to help control our legacy industries here.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, Representative Davis, the leasing activity, because the feds still own the mineral, the leasing activity is conducted by the federal government. Once that lease is done and approved, then the permitting and everything that follows to mine the mineral is done at the state level. But the leasing is at the federal level, again, because they own the mineral.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Representative Davis.
So this resolution is in essence saying that the federal government does not own the mineral? I guess I'm
No,
missing something here.
Representative Davis, this is basically just saying we're taking control of the leasing aspect of oil and gas and coal.
And I think if the way I'm understanding it is if something like this happens to where the federal government shuts down and whoever's working on your lease can't work on it, that someone at the state level could work on it and keep it going. If maybe one of the goals of the resolution.
Yes, and to just administer the lease sales. We have the capability of it. We do it with state lands. We can do it just as well with the federal lands. It wouldn't transfer any ownership of the mineral rights to the state of Wyoming. It would just give us the possibility of carrying on lease sales. If some president thinks he wants to shut it down, we've already got control of that if we can get Congress to agree with us. That's what this resolution does. Thank you, Mr. Detail. Any question? All right, committee. Any further questions? Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's the overall cost if we're pursuing what you guys are talking about here? What's the overall cost to the state of Wyoming to be able to have the ability? And what's the economic driver there to pay for that ability? Does that make sense? Have we looked down to the future? Is it going to take 100 FTEs? Are we standing up a whole agency? Does this agency work under whom? Is it, I guess there's a lot of unknown questions for if we ask this, what the results would be and how would we stand it up and how would we pay for it? Because if I heard correctly, the cost where we're doing double duty and you guys, by state primacy, we got rid of half of that cost, which was a savings to the permittee, basically. So I guess I'm confused in some of this, what we're looking for, how we're going to pay for it, and what's the economic benefit to the state of Wyoming if we go down this or where it is right now.
Well, I'll try to take that on a little bit. Those are good questions, Representative Davis, and we don't know that, but we do know that our royalties go to zero if we don't lease any of them, and that's devastating. That's what we're trying to get at here. If we can't lease our coal, our oil, and our gas, and we can get Congress to agree to let us do those lease sales, then we can, perpetuate our revenue stream by leasing those and drilling those leases. If we don't do something and they put moratoriums on everything, we kind of killed the golden goose. So we need to look at how we can take this over, because I think the cost benefit is huge. It probably will cost us a little bit more, but at least we'll have the opportunities. Did I answer that? Does anybody else want Senator
Maybe a
Dockstader?
little more discussion, Mr. Chairman. We're leasing something that's owned, the product is owned by the federal government, yet we're leasing it. Help me understand this a little bit better, just so I'm not necessarily opposed, but I want to make sure that logistically, can we do this? Can we lease another product that we don't own as a state?
Yeah, thanks, Senator Dockstader. I think that's what the research that LSO did, and it looks like that we can by her research. And just to maybe change the narrative a little bit, the federal lands are held in trust for the states, and that's sort of a play on words, but that's the way it's written. They're held in trust for the states. They have title to them. I won't dispute that, but they are for the benefit of the states. They're held in trust. They're like an executor of a trust, a private trust, and we're the beneficiaries of that. And if they shut us down, the executor of the trust, we can't pay our bills. Yeah, Co-Chairman Moore.
Yeah, if I can jump in a little bit, Bob, or Co-Chairman. To me, this comes back to who's in charge of the destiny. And I think if we're truly a sovereign state, if something happens in Washington DC that's totally outside our control, if we had the ability to do these leases, we could still move forward and issue those leases. We could continue to do business when the federal government's incapable of doing that like they are right now. And I don't know, you know, it would have been nice if the bid that was so low in the state to our north, if it would have been just out of the park. I beg the question that we would have moved forward with our sell, or if it would have been put on the scrap like it is right now. And I think that's all this is this would set the state up to where we could ensure that even if we got a hostile administration down the road that comes in and starts shutting down all of our critical industry, this would give us the avenue to say, well, if they're not going to lease it, we're still going to lease it, because part of that mineral is ours. And we should be able to pull it out of the ground. If the state wants to extract that mineral, we should have that ability. And this is just setting it up so that if we get in a situation where we either have a hostile administration or we have the government shut down like right now, if this goes on for a long time, it could actually get to be very, it could have a very dire impact on our state, because it could shut down all of our ability to go out and fund the state. And that's part of what those resources are for, is to help. I mean, look at all the things we've done with coal in this state already. And it's not taking anything. This isn't changing anything. The federal government would still be, you know, they'd still be getting all the stuff that they normally get. What this would do is it would just make it to where we could offer the leases, and we would be over the administrative part of the mining, as opposed to waiting for the government to approve it. And to me, this is a better way for us to ensure that our industries that are so important to the state are protected. It gives us the ability to protect those industries, because we all recognize the hardship that comes to a mine. If we have to close a mine down because the federal government is not functional, it has dire consequences to the people that live here and the people that rely on that. And if the state could still continue to issue those leases, we could continue to do that. The federal government would still get their royalty checks. They'd still get their minerals, but it would stop them from being able to come in and whether it's by design or whether just happenstance. I don't think it's by design that we shut the federal government down, but the past administration or the previous administration clearly, and there's been other administrations that clearly did go after our number one industry, and they about broke our back. This to me is a way to circumvent the state from getting in a position where we have an adverse administration that is trying to shut down our primary industry or industries. That makes sense? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but it's a resolution. Like I once ran a resolution that we would take a multiple use approach to our forests and actually harvest timber. Another administration came along and we preserved our forests till they died. And so I don't know, a resolution is just that. It's just a resolution. It's not statute. It doesn't really change, but it does send a message that we're trying to protect our Wyoming product. And I see what you're trying to do there, because everything that we have, this university that we're sitting at, is a spinoff of the mineral products that we have. So,
Mr.
with
Chairman,
that,
Mr. Chairman,
The voice.
yeah, I could probably stay with it, but that's kind of where I'm at with the summary of it. It's still just a resolution, but I understand what you're trying to do.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Dockstader. And like you said, it is just a resolution. It's not statute. We're going to ask, it's structured to ask Congress to let us carry on our legacy industries in the mining sector. Senator Larson, you have.
Yes,
you-
Mr. Chairman. Yes, does the federal government charge a processing fee on those leases already? And I would guess that could be something we would do if they do that already. I would guess they do, but I don't know.
Thank you, or Senator Larson. Go ahead. Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Senator Larson's question, when the lease is approved and the bonus bid is paid, the state gets 48%, the feds get 52% of that bonus bid. That 2% is considered the administrative fee.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that helps.
Go ahead, Senator Larson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. That helps clarify a little bit there. I would also would like to maybe put an amendment in there like Representative Davis was talking about on the page 1, maybe include those other items. I don't know why they aren't included. So I'd like to make that amendment.
Thank you, Representative Larson. Before we go to a second, let me ask a question to LSO or maybe to Mr. Detai. Are those other minerals that are referenced there, are they pertinent to this as far as leasing goes? Do we have activity there that's of consequence, so to speak?
Mr. Chairman, could I ask the committee's favor to read those minerals one more time?
Yes, Mr. Detai. What it says here, line 11 on page 1 says, whereas the Mineral Leasing Act governs energy minerals, including oil, gas, and coal, and solid leasable minerals, including phosphate, potassium, sodium, and oil shale. And is that it? That's it.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I do believe we have those in Wyoming. I think your trona and your soda ash would fall under the sodium thing. So I think you'd leave it. Because I do just to cover your bases, because I do think you have them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr.
So
Chairman.
do the feds administer those lease sales on those minerals that currently?
As far as phosphate and the others, but for trona and soda ash, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to lease that from the federal government just like you do coal.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a second to Senator Larson's amendment to the bill? Seconded by Representative Davis. Any discussion on the amendment? Co-Chairman Wharf.
I just don't think we need to put it everywhere, if I'm understanding it right, because the Mineral Leasing Act says that that's in it. So anytime we mention or reference the Mineral Leasing Act, it's including all of that already. So,
Mr. Chairman, you could probably incorporate it by reference
Miss,
to the Mineral Leasing Act.
yeah, that would probably be the easiest, just make reference to that because it's all in that act.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator Larson.
in section 1, I think it does not state those in there, and I think we should. It just states administer the manage oil, gas, and coal leasing. I think we should include the others right in that area. Be line 18, page 10.
One more time, what was that one? Line 18? Page
Line
what?
18, page 10, I think is where it would be put, I think. And Talise could help.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, it would be multiple times throughout because the direction of the joint resolution was only to ask for the administration to manage oil, gas, and coal leasing. So throughout there's multiple times throughout on different pages that those other ones would have to be added, which we could do, but it wouldn't just be that one time.
So thank you for that, Talise. Would, in your opinion, the legal side of things, if we just reference the Mineral Leasing Act, would that be all encompassing? So we didn't have to list those every time, just to clear that question up?
Mr. Chairman, I mean, the joint resolution is asking Congress to amend the Federal Mineral Leasing Act to authorize the state to administer and manage specific leasing. So I think you would potentially want to, I mean, I haven't given it a ton of thought on whether it would be sufficient to just say that to ask Congress to amend the Federal Mineral Leasing Act to authorize them to administer and manage any minerals covered under the act. We could do something like that. I would need to give it a little bit more thought.
Thank you. Well, Co-Chairman Worf.
Yeah, Talise, could you just put down as a definition and put a definition that says Mineral Leasing Act means this and have it include that, so anytime we reference that, it would because I don't want to make this into a 45-page bill if we can avoid it.
Mr. Chairman, I think you guys could just make a conceptual amendment and I can work out the best way to get that, your intent in there with the most efficient way possible, but I don't think I can do it quickly on the fly right now.
Thank you, Talise. You know, I
Mr. Chairman.
think, yeah, go ahead, Senator Larson.
I probably ought to take my amendment back and then present a different one that is conceptual. And hopefully we can get it done that way.
Thank you. Anything else? No, I think that's good. I mean, conceptual is good. I don't know why we wouldn't include them all. Just if we're going to go, the Mineral Leasing Act, like you brought up, it lists all of those. Why leave some of them out? So good. I think it's a good amendment.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Co-Chairman Moore.
And just in fairness, just so that the committee knows, we initially did just talk about oil and gas. So Talise did it how we asked, but it's morphed into more. But I think it makes sense. Any lease that is being done by the federal government, we would like to have the state to have the ability to do those leases so that we can remain functional in the event of a government shutdown or something else similar to that.
Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had one question for Director there. Royalties, correct? That's, you get paid royalties when the product is mined, not when the product is leased.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Okay.
What is paid when the mineral is leased is the bonus bid.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Thank you for clearing that up for me.
And Mr. Chairman, royalties among other things, in addition to your ad valorem taxes on production, your sales and use tax, and everything else that goes into developing the mineral.
Thank you. Representative Davis.
Mr. Chair, that would mean you would have infrastructure in place. Is that correct? Not just the leasing permit.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Davis, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the royalties and everything else comes from when you're all in place and you're turning earth and you're mining.
Thank you.
Committee. Okay, I guess we have a motion on the floor, an amendment. It's been seconded. And Talise? No?
He pulled that back.
Well, I thought we were still going to do or did you withdraw that, Senator Larson?
Yes, I did. And I kind of need to make it probably conceptual. Maybe we're all on the same page there, but I would like to make it so Talise could put it throughout the bill if needed.
Is
So
there a
that,
second? That's a motion, right?
Yes.
Senator Larson?
yes.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded would you read that amendment to lease, just so everybody on the committee knows exactly what we're voting for?
Mr. Chairman, it's a conceptual amendment to include in the joint resolution all minerals under the Federal Mineral Leasing Act. So it would authorize the state of Wyoming to administer and manage leasing of all federal minerals under the Federal Mineral Leasing Act, or some language similar to that throughout the bill. Conceptually, that is what the amendment would do.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment? Go ahead, Senator Dockstader.
Feel like I need to explain my vote. I'm not quite sure I'm there with the amendment part of it. Probably be with the bill, but not on the amendment.
Okay. Question's been called. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Back to the bill. Back on the bill. Any further amendments or discussion? Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The discussion is about the leasing period, okay? As I heard you say there, you know, you have to have a willing leasee. We can go through the channels and offer the lease, but you have to have somebody willing to participate with the lease. So you would either, as currently we had a low ball bid on coal, is what I would call that. But at one time, oil went to zero also, and matter of fact, went negative in the state of Wyoming. So would you conduct the lease with a low ball bid, or would you be like the federal, it just put it on stay for now until we can figure their way through that? So I guess that's my question to you as a state of Wyoming. Are we willing to lease that precious mineral for next to nothing, to receive next to nothing, or do we want to wait for the market to bounce up? Is my question.
I'll hit on it
Yeah.
first if you'd like.
No, I can take a
Go
crack
ahead,
at
go
it,
ahead.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Deti.
Whether it's the feds doing the leasing or the state doing the leasing, it is up to the states or the feds and the industry to come up with the market value. And it won't be the same on each lease.
Yes. Co-Chairman Wharf.
Thank you. Yeah, and I guess what I would say, we've gone through a couple administrations that have been rather adverse to coal mining. Had the state had the ability to continue to issue leasing permit and to continue to sell our coal, do you think we would be in the situation we're in today, where we have people turning in such a low ball bid that I'm assuming that's driven by the question that's behind the marketability of stuff right now? Had we never got into this hole to begin with, had we had the opportunity to keep coal going, I guess I'm interested in hearing what you would have to say, Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Co-Chairman Wharf, I think there are a few more moving factors than the fact that we haven't done it for a while. I think that's one of them. You know, when you have not leased any coal for over a decade, and the market has changed significantly, the policy has changed significantly, the projected demand has changed significantly. There are just a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of a learning curve. And I think we are where we are because we are where we are. Does that make sense? But you know, whether you're talking about whether the state's administering the lease or whether the feds are administering the lease, you know, you have to go through the process to figure out what the value is. And it's got to be acceptable to, you know, you've got to have it to where it's acceptable to the person that is pursuing the lease, so that they actually pursue the lease. and you have to have it acceptable to the one that's offering the lease, because if someone comes in with a bid that the coal still stays in the ground, you don't get the lease. You've got to get to yes. You've got to get to a point to where you can lease the coal, because if you don't lease the coal, you can't mine the coal, and then you don't get the revenue. You get nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if that answers your questions.
Representative Davis.
Thank you, but that brings up a good point. Years ago, back when I was a little bit younger man in the oil and gas industry, they chose, because the price was so low, to shut everything in. They curtailed the supply in order to create a higher price. So I'm not really sure what we're trying to accomplish here with this, other than we want our fingers in it, and I don't know if we want our fingers in this one.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may, whether you want your fingers into who is administering the leasing program, and that's the decision you're talking about right now. That's the resolution you're talking about right now. But let me tell you, from the industry side, we want our fingers in it. We want to get our fingers into that coal. And it's just, you got to get over that leasing hurdle, and we got to hit the sweet spot on it. And we haven't done it for a long time. But I'll go back to what I've been saying. We're going to need it. This country needs it. This state needs it. And we've got to figure out a way to hit the leasing sweet spot. And, things are moving fast, but I think we may have a little time to figure it out. But not much.
Thank you. I'll just make one last comment. Those are good questions, Representative Davis, but if we don't get our fingers in it, we're just beholden to whatever they want to do. And they wanted to shut our entire oil and gas and coal industry down. And if, I don't think we should just be bystanders, watching them take away our revenue stream to fund our state. Thank you. Go ahead, Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think a lot of it has to do with the market as a whole. Other states within our nation have put curtailments on Wyoming coal. Would you agree with me on that?
I would say coal and
Might as well just stay up there.
Yeah, it's a good spot for you.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Davis, I wouldn't say curtailments on Wyoming coal per se. Curtailments on the electricity generated from our coal. Yeah, and that's an issue that's still out there.
Right.
So, but again, you're not, when you're talking about the market dynamics too, you're still going to need the power from somewhere.
And as you, Mr. Chairman, as
Go ahead.
as you've alluded to, the demand out there is going to drive, just like we haven't been shutting down. We've been deferring these shutdowns on these coal fire plants. So the future does look brighter there. So recognizing leadership from wherever, I'm not sure. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, committee. More discussion. We're on the bill. Question? Question's been called. All those in favor of moving forward,
Mr.
I think
Chairman,
it takes a
Yes.
hand vote.
go ahead.
this is a roll call.
Oh, this is a roll call vote. Okay, go ahead, LSO, take us home.
This is the roll call vote for 26 LSO 204 State Management Federal Mineral Leases as amended. Senator Dockstetter. Aye. Senator Larson.
Aye. Aye.
Representative Davis.
Aye.
Representative Erickson.
Aye.
Co-chairman Ide.
Aye.
Chairman Worf.
Aye.
6 ayes, that passes.
Okay. That settles that one. Go ahead, Talise. The next bill up is along the same lines, but more along the lines of royalty instead of leasing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Talise Hanson, Staff Attorney LSO, presenting Bill Draft 26, LSO 166, Federal Mineral Royalties State Share. This bill draft was requested at the committee's June meeting. So walking through the bill draft, this bill draft is a joint resolution requesting Congress to introduce a bill and enact law to increase the state of Wyoming's share of federal mineral royalties from 50% to XX%. The staff comment on page 1 highlights that the committee will need to determine what percentage of federal mineral royalties the state would like to request from Congress. Page 2, lines 2 through 6 discusses the Federal Mineral Leasing Act, which allows 50% of all money received from sales, bonuses, royalties, and rentals from federal mineral leasing to be distributed to the states where the lands or deposits are located, excluding Alaska. Page 2, lines 8 through 11 notes that Alaska receives 90% of all money received from sales, bonuses, royalties, and rentals from federal mineral leasing. Page 2, lines 13 through 16 notes that in fiscal year 2024, Wyoming received $590,920,971 in federal mineral royalties. Page 2, line 18 through page 3, line 3, and page 3, lines 11 through 13 discusses how the One Big Beautiful Bill Act reduces the federal mineral royalty rate for oil and gas leasing from 16 and 67/100% to 12.5%, and the federal mineral royalty rate for coal leasing from 12.5% to 7%. Page 3, lines 4 through 9 provides that the reduction in the federal mineral royalty rate on oil and gas leasing is estimated to reduce Wyoming's state share of federal mineral royalties by approximately $600,000 in fiscal year 2026, increasing annually to approximately $4 million in fiscal year 2030. Page 3, lines 15 through 19 provides that the reduction in the federal mineral royalty rate on coal leasing is estimated to reduce Wyoming's state share of federal mineral royalties by approximately $50 million annually until 2034. Page 3, lines 21 through 23, and page 4, lines 1 through 5 provides that the reduction in the federal mineral royalty rates will reduce the revenues available for Wyoming's roads, bridges and highways, K through 12 education, higher education, capital construction, emergency responders, and general operations of government, which are vital resources to Wyoming and its citizens. Page 4, lines 10 through 13 requests that Congress introduce and enact legislation that will increase the state of Wyoming's share of federal mineral royalties from 50% to XX%. And I'll stand for any questions.
Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 2, the number you quoted on line 15, what percentage is that Wyoming is receiving back? Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, Representative Davis, I'm not sure off the top of my head what percent that is.
It's 24, so it'd be 40. I believe it'd be, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Representative Moore.
I believe it
Okay.
says fiscal year 2024, and I believe at that time we were getting 48%.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr.
Co-Chairman
Kuchar.
Worf. I think the law says it's a 50-50 split, but you got that administrative fee in there as well. So it's actually probably a 52 to 48% split.
Correct.
And that's the way I understand it, Mr. Chairman, is that in actuality, we probably need to change it where it says 50%. I mean, I don't know how that's handled because I do know that they're taking 2% out for administrative. And that's kind of what we'd like to do, is at least recapture that. If we're going to start handling the leasing, that we would handle the administrative cost. Instead of giving that money to the federal government, we would do it for Wyoming.
And I might suggest, just as what you may consider doing is, since it says 50, when in reality it's 48-52,
Yep.
you suggest that it be, because if you drop it down to a Wyoming share of 52 to 48, they still recoup the 2% fee, and then it's actually 50-50. So just as you're figuring your numbers.
Yeah.
So, Talise, did you, do you have any comments on that, on that percentage? Do we address that in the bill draft here?
Mr. Chairman,
With the thoughts of trying to get the 2% on our side of the equation for administer and the, you know, I guess this is a little bit different than the 50-50 because we're going to be asking for 87.5 or 90%. So how's the best way to navigate that?
Mr. Chairman, the initial reason why it was 50% in the joint resolution was in 30 USC section 191A, which talks about the disposition of monies. In subsection A, it talks about 50% to the states and then 90% to Alaska. And then in subsection B, it says that the amount of such payment shall be reduced by 2%. So the first subsection A says 50% and 90 for Alaska, and then subsection B says that it shall be reduced by 2%. So that's why it was drafted the way it is. But either way, if you decided to do it a different way, that we could make that work as well. But that is the reason why it was drafted the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that? Representative Davis? No? Co-Chairman Wharf, any comments? Okay. Further discussion? Representative Davis?
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question on page 3 when we're in, I don't know if, but these numbers, these shortages are based on the current extraction, or is it, if the director was correct with things moving forward, that may be smaller, or if it's, so I guess, you know, we're basing our numbers on current, but maybe not future.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
ahead.
not quite sure what formula the LSO had used, but a shortage of 50 million in royalties would be based on roughly 193 million tons of production, and we would hope that would go up. So, I mean, you're obviously not going to be generating as much as if the royalty rate was still at 12%, but we'd hope production would go up so that it would cut into that projected 50 million shortfall and bring that down. Does that make sense? I'm probably as clear as mud right there.
Yeah, Mr.
Representative Davis?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right there, because the reason we brought them down was for the projection to become more market friendly, and that we.
Mr.
be
Chairman,
more
absolutely. That is
competitive.
absolutely the intent.
Right.
So that number to me is kind of questionable.
Anything else? No, I think those are good comments. Yeah, we're speculating a little bit. We have to, but more market friendly is good for the operators. And if we can get rid of, if we can control our own destiny with leases too, maybe we can get more leases and get more production, and that'll offset that lower royalty rate. Yeah. Anyway. What's that? Yeah. So I guess, Representative Davis.
One other question then, Mr. Chairman, you know, if it increases, these numbers are wrong. So if it decreases, these numbers are right. Correct? Increased production reduces these numbers here. So is there a formula that you would look at, similar to our taxes, where as things ebb and flow of the market, where are we at there? Because if you're correct and these power stations are not being shut down, they're being delayed and all this other stuff, some of these numbers here that we're quoting, I can't seem to say were justifiable.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Go
may,
ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Davis, this is the completely decision of the committee and the body. But I think what you are maybe trying to look for is you've got that $50 million deficit as a result of the decrease in the revenue rate, is what you want to try to do, take into account, hopefully increase production, which would lower that. And then when you're looking at the formula, to bring it up so that you can levelize that projected 50 million as much as you can so that the state coffers don't take too big of a hit.
Mhm.
Does that make sense, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely. And I think, it's not solely on the $50 million that we're getting a haircut on. It's overall with our oil, gas, and coal are getting more of the royalty coming to the state. And then the state has more incentive to be friendly to industry too, because it's benefiting the state as well.
And absolutely, Mr. Chairman. And I think, again, that's your decision as to how much of the brass ring you want to reach for and what is going to be palatable, because the folks that you're asking to take the money from still have the final say on how much more they want to give to you. So, it's I think you have to put a little thought into it and see how much you want to ask.
Committee. Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chairman, should we take
Representative,
public
Co-Chairman
comment?
Worf.
Well, if I may, I believe this was to echo the letter that was sent from our appropriations. And what we talked about was mirroring their request is what I recall, which was the 86 and a half.
87 and a half, I believe.
87 and a
Yeah.
half, yeah. And then 12 and a half. So that's what this is. There's a letter that was sent to our congressional delegation, and this is kind of a follow-up to reinforce that. It was sent from the Appropriations Committee, and we wanted to do that. So I think that's the numbers that we're shooting for, 87 and a half and 12 and a half.
Representative Larson, did you have something?
Mr. Chairman, yes, thank you.
Uh-huh.
We should take public comment and then proceed maybe with moving the bill and such before we discuss very much, I think.
Very good. With that, we'll move to public comment. Any public comment? Nothing online. Okay, committee. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman,
Move the bill.
Go ahead, Senator Larson.
I was hoping we would get Mr. Detty or Travis to comment a little bit. Maybe he didn't want to on the bill, but.
Go ahead, Mr. Detay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And thank you, Senator Larson, for putting me back on the hot seat. My comment on this is, this is your decision. The royalties have already been paid by my industry. So it's how you decide to go and chase after your fair share for the state. That's your job. So I'm going to just defer to you as to how much you choose to do. And again, I would just, I'll just offer a word of caution if you ask for too much, or if you've got to find that sweet spot. But since my guys have already paid you, it's up to you with what you decide to do with it.
Thank you. Co-Chairman Worf.
Yeah, I'm going to say it again then, because the whole idea when we made this motion to have the LSO draft this, it was to reinforce the letter that our Appropriations Committee had sent, and that was the 87 and a half and the 12 and a half. That was the split they asked for. And I don't think we want to send a different message. I think it's important for us to send a message that kind of reflects what they requested. I think that's bad form for us to change that either way.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I?
Yeah, go ahead,
have
Senator
Taylor
Dockstader.
Further explain the history on that? You lost me a little bit.
I'm
there.
sorry, I couldn't hear you in your mic.
You lost me a little bit there, Co-Chair Rohr.
Okay,
Go ahead.
and you might not have been to that meeting, Dan, but our appropriations committee, it came out that our appropriations chairman had both, they had sent a letter to our congressional delegation asking them to change the split to an 87.5 and a 12.5. And that's what we made this, yeah, it was sent to your email. You
Oh,
might not
okay.
have seen it, but
So-
that's what I'm referencing is
Okay.
we were
And so
trying to
that-
support that.
Mr. Chairman.
Go
so
ahead.
That's the numbers you're asking for at this point. Okay.
That's what's in the bill, or it's not in the bill yet. We're gonna
But-
decide that number today if we get
Yeah.
that far. Yeah,
I
Thank
could follow, Mr. Chairman, I could follow appropriations on that.
okay.
And that's all I was wanting to reflect was that was the whole purpose of this was we were trying to give another, I guess, endorsement or another push to reinforce what they had requested.
Representative Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 37.5% increase. What type of dollars are we looking at there? Do we have an idea? You know, we're shorted 50 million. Does 37.5%, what dollar value is that?
You know, on the Representative Davis, I can't give you the exact number. LSO probably could. I think our fiscal year 2025, we had just short, our 50% was right around $600 million. So that would put it all at a little over $1 billion, both federal and state royalties. So you can kind of do the math from there. Somebody smarter than me with a calculator, but yeah. Anything else, committee? Yeah, I like the draft. I mean, I don't know, they should be all of our 100% of our minerals anyway, but we'll share it with the feds here and we'll ask them like Alaska did. They get 90% on their federal lands and they asked for it and they got it. So just another resolution and see, we can ask nicely and see what happens.
I'd move the bill.
Is there a second?
I would second.
Second by Representative Kay Erickson. Further discussion? I guess, real quick, it's blank on there right now, so we probably need to address that in the bill before we go to a vote. So really, the only thing is do we want to just leave it at the 87.5% that the Appropriations Committee sent to our congressional delegation? And I think at this point, that would probably be the number since they've already done that and that's out there that we stay with that 87.5. But
Mr. Chairman.
go ahead, Senator Dockstader.
I'm for backing the appropriations proposal.
Me too.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can someone make a motion to that effect to amend the bill?
So moved.
Second by Senator Dockstader. So are we gonna vote on that before we vote on the bill? Okay, is that a roll call or is that just okay? All those,
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Larson.
Mr. Chairman, on appropriations, and I just want to comment, I'm not sure if we voted to send a letter with those numbers. I can't remember. That's terrible to say. That may have come from our chairman. So I did want to say that. If someone has other information, let me know. I'm okay with
Yeah.
leaving it there, but I just wanted to state that.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Larson. I have a copy of the letter right here, and in the third paragraph down, that's what it states, 12.5% to the feds and 87.5% to the state of Wyoming.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Senator Larson.
does it say it was a vote?
Good question. It's signed by the two co-chairs of appropriations. I don't know if, I don't see anything in the letter here that talks about a vote. But were you privy to the conversation on that, Senator Larson?
Mr. Chairman, my memory isn't that great, but I do not remember. I don't remember it. I'm sorry. But it's something we should discuss if the body thinks different, but I'm good with 87.5.
Okay. All those in favor of putting the language or the numerical numbers in this bill draft to 87.5%, 12.5% share, state versus feds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So there's our number. Back on the bill, any last comments, discussion? Roll call. Oh, Co-Chairman Moore.
I just wanted to make sure I clarified because I don't want to misspeak. And I don't want to say that it was sold as having been passed or authorized by the Appropriations Committee. I just remember Bob and I were both on our way to the meeting when that letter was discussed in the paper. And that's what led to this. And so I just want to make sure that you understand, Senator Larson, I don't want to misrepresent the letter. We just knew that a letter had been sent, both chairmen had signed it. And I don't want to speak for that committee. I don't want anybody to think that it was or that it was not endorsed by the whole committee. The letter just is signed by both the chairmen. So that's just so the committee knows that. I don't want anybody misrepresenting that.
Yeah, thank you, Co-Chairman Wharf. And along those lines, not to belabor it, but we did have the royalty share discussion in our priorities prior to the interim committees here. So it was something that we plan to address as well anyway. So, okay, roll call.
This is a roll call for 26 LSO 166, Federal Mineral Royalties State Share as amended. Senator Dockstetter?
Aye.
Senator Larson?
I vote aye.
Representative Davis?
Aye.
Representative Erickson?
Aye.
Co-Chairman Ide?
Aye.
Chairman Wharf?
Aye.
6 ayes, that passes.
All right, committee. Let's see. I think,
Good neighbor.
yes. We've got the extra item on our agenda today to discuss our Good Neighbor Authority. We have Representative Heiner here, I think, to speak on that behalf to see whether we wanted to do any further amendments to the last bill that we got out of here. And Senator or Representative Heiner, Majority Floor Leader Heiner, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Heiner, Representative Scott Heiner from House District 18. Good afternoon, Chairman, Co-Chairman, and committee members. This is a committee that is near and dear to my heart, but I must tell you, it looks a lot better from this side of the table. Appreciate you taking a little bit of time. I know you're antsy to get on the road again, but Senator Dockstetter and I had the chance of spending a day with a United States Forest Service supervisor from the western part of the state. He took us to the Willow Creek Fire. As you recall, this is one of the major fires we had in Wyoming this summer. It burned up over 4,000 acres and had total personnel peaking at 425 firefighters. It was very touch and go there for a little while. When it first started, it was a lightning start fire, but they were able to control it at Highway 89, just south of Star Valley. Not control it, but stop it from progressing. If it would have jumped that highway, it would have gotten into some thick timber, very steep terrain, and would have decimated some recreational area as well as the Lander Cutoff Trail, historic trails. So that fire cost, to suppress that fire, total cost was about $10 million. But if they wouldn't have been able to stop it from crossing that highway, the forest supervisor said it could have easily been $100 million, and it may still be burning. So I'm very grateful for those 425 firefighters that dedicated their time and talents to fighting that fire. I remember that night very well. I was watching the media as it was live streaming, and they did a heroic job of stopping that. But as Senator Dockstader and I toured that with the forest supervisor, he pointed out something that I was not aware of. Last summer, they did a fuel reduction effort along that highway. For 300 feet on each side of the highway, they reduced the fuel and made that a fire line, a place where they could fight the fire more effectively. And the forest supervisor told us that was one of the major reasons that they were able to stop that progression of that fire that night, was because of that forest fuel reduction efforts that they did. They spent $96,000 on that fuel reduction, and it saved $90 million. The way he categorizes, they've done tabletop exercises how to fight fires, and he categorizes it as the 3 R's: a ridge line, a road, or a river. And they've drawn out this throughout their forest where they want to create these fuel reduction efforts to be able to have a good defensible position in case of a fire. The problem is they don't have the ability to get to it fast enough, and they don't have the staff, and it takes the federal government a long time to get this kind of work done. He was asking us for help through the Good Neighbor authorities. He said he could get the money. As committee members are aware, the Good Neighbor Authority is funded through the federal government. They pay the wages of these positions. But we have a ceiling on how many Good Neighbor Authority positions we allow here in the state. And a couple of years ago, we raised that ceiling up to, I think it's a few more positions, but there's still a limit on how many Good Neighbor Authority positions we can have. Now, during my lifetime, I've seen the demise of our wood product industry. When I was growing up, there were logging trucks running everywhere. There were sawmills in almost every small town in Wyoming. It contributed to the economic benefit of Wyoming in a large sense. Slowly but surely, that has been almost driven to extinction. With the roadless rules and all of these things that have been put in place to prevent logging, those jobs have gone away. Now, is it too late to save? It may be difficult at this point. We only have a few sawmills left here in Wyoming, and it's increasingly difficult to find logs that are able to be harvested. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, it requires that the forest sell more logging leases. They're directed to sell 25 million board feet next year than what they did this year. And then in 2027, an additional 25 million. And every year, an additional 25 million for 5 years. Now, that's not an executive order. That is signed into law last July. That was put into law. So it's going to be difficult to stop that from happening. But from our Forest Service, they are going to have a difficult time. It takes a lot of time and effort to be able to manage one of those timber sales. This particular forest on the Bridger Teton Forest, this forest supervisor says he's got almost 5,000 acres that have been NEPA cleared, but to get it to the actual market through a bidding process takes time and energy And he doesn't have that. He's been working on some smaller lots of 5, 10, even up to 100 acres. And it's taken years just to get those to the bidding process. Again, he was asking for help with the Good Neighbor Authority to move that along because the forest has got a requirement now to sell additional board feet. Now, what does the Good Neighbor Authority do for us? It provides flexibility. The Good Neighbor Authority works under the state contracting laws, so we're more flexible. We can react faster. And the Forest Service says it actually cuts the time down by half of the time it takes to be able to sell one of these projects. It takes away some of the district boundaries that they struggle with. So if you have one forest, let's say the Bridger Teton Forest, and then the Shoshone Forest right next door, you have boundaries with different jurisdictions. With the Good Neighbor Authority, they don't have to deal with those boundaries, and they can speed things up. So it's a more efficient way of getting this work done. And I think everyone in this room wants to be able to take advantage of the forest products that we have here and the natural resources we have here in Wyoming. We have seen what has happened over the past few decades as we have been limited how many forest products we could produce. Our forests are now more prone to beetle kill. Forest fires are more devastating because of what's been happening. But I think this is a great opportunity to revitalize the industry, to bring health back to our forests, and to do what we've been trying to do for decades, get our forest back into a manageable state to where we can harvest the timber. This is a time for Wyoming to step in and help, and they've asked for our help. That's what's pretty amazing is when they ask for help and they're offering to pay for it. So it's my opinion that we should further this proposed bill draft that you have that would take the cap off of the number of Good Neighbor Authority positions. Again, there are other NGOs that will help. Not only the Forest Service will provide some money for that, but we have friends of the different forests that will help with some of the costs because we all see the benefit. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you for this time, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Majority Floor Leader Heiner. Thanks for being here today. Questions? Senator Dockstader.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add to Representative Heiner's report, and I'll just quickly highlight what we have available on the south end of the forest without taking up a lot of time. These are smaller cells that were taken care of in 2025. The Big Spring cell, 300 acres, Squirrel Savage cell, 180 acres, cubic board feet, 4,800. The first one I just said was 7,400 cubic board feet. Still to be sold, Little Springs, 100 acres, 2,700 cubic board feet, and Allen Slide Rock, 200 acres, 5,000 cubic board feet. In addition to those timber cells, what Representative Heiner was emphasizing, the fire prevention work that's going on and the restoration. He has 4 lined up on the south end of the forest. LaBarge Vegetation, 1,800 acres. Tunip Ridge, 6,000 acres. Hams Fork Vegetation Restoration Project, 8,600 acres. Kimmer Roadside Treatments, that's 1,000 acres of treatments. Plus they could do some timber production as well there. So what we have is those in the forest and the management, they're getting things ready and saying, let's do this, this, and this, but we need some ground support. And that's where I notice our state forester is there. She could come on and explain some of that ground support that as we coordinate through her office. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Do we want to go ahead and bring the state forester in right now? If you'd like to comment, Kelly, Norris, we'll give you the floor.
Am I on screen already? And Matt's
Yes.
there. Okay, Matt, you can go up there too. I did not pay Representative Heiner to say all those very intelligent things, or Senator Dockstader, but thank you so much. First of all, thank you, Chairman. I thank you to this committee for taking the time to talk about Good Neighbor Authority. As you've heard, we're in a really interesting time right now in Wyoming. In particular, our forests are coming to state forestry and saying, we need your help. And I am really pleased that they are also talking to each of you and taking you out on the ground to show you the projects that are getting set up, yet the effectiveness of the Forest Service in comparison to the state and our contracting systems. We're in a unique place to help our forests right now. And as Representative Heiner did state, we are limited in how many employees we can hire through the Good Neighbor Authority currently, through the state statute. And the bill that was approved in Buffalo does take care of that. It does remove the limitations. And that is something that is going to need to be done, is to remove those limitations and open up flexibility if we're going to grow the Good Neighbor Authority program. And what you heard in particular when it came to Senator Dockstader sharing, there is quite a bit of growth and opportunity, specifically in the Bridger-Teton area. The western side of the state has quite a bit more opportunity to grow. We've been growing Good Neighbor Authority in the Black Hills, in the Medicine Bow, and in the Bighorns for quite a few years, but there's still lots of opportunity, almost whole districts to take a look at when it comes to rebuilding our small industries back into these forests, which is really, really one of the most important things we can think about doing when it comes to long-term sustainability of the forest health in our forests, right? Is thinking about how we can start bringing back smaller operations into our communities and utilizing that wood. So second of all, the other part that you heard Senator Heiner talk about was this no boundaries. And we have a great example of that here in the Medicine Bow route. We just sold what we called the Fallen Pines timber sale. And that timber sale is going to have state contracting to cover timber that's coming off of BLM lands, coming off of Forest Service lands, coming off of state trust lands, as well as private land ownerships. So there you go, that you have all the landowners in one area, and it takes the state who has the connections, who has the authorities through the Good Neighbor Authority, to be able to pull all of these projects into one place and put them out to bid and make them accessible to our local contractors. So this is really a critical time for us to, what I have spoken to Senator Dockstader and Representative Heiner is, why not take advantage if they're asking us for help? We are willing and able to do this. We just need some flexibility in that amendment. And that's where the state is really, really the best at is the flexibility in our system. So having the flexibility on the hiring and then for staff, and then having the flexibility on the different types of funding that could be available for these projects. For example, in the past, we've had for the Rob Roy Service Contract Project, GNA project, BOPU, the city of Cheyenne, has funded and given money for the project. What if they want to help fund salary as well? So those are things and examples that when we open up flexibility, we will see possibilities of growth. I can stop there, Matt, and see if you had anything else to add to that.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead and say your name and who you're with. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Matt Marshall, I'm the Assistant State Forester. I do operations for the division. I think everything that needed to be said has pretty much been said here, but I will just mimic Kelly's sentiment here that when we have willing cooperators and mills in need in Wyoming, we need to jump on the opportunity. And I think in particular, our relationship that's been formed here in the Cameron Ranger District is something that we need to follow through with. And feel like we have a really good game plan at this point, and the flexibilities that'll be provided through this bill will kind of jumpstart us into that. So I thank you all for your work here. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I'll just make sure I'm clear here. So we've got a bill teed up right now. Kelly, I think you're aware of that. You were there in Buffalo. And to address Majority Floor Leader Heiner's question about the cap, we did remove that cap. We amended the Good Neighbor bill, and then we also allowed it to for the state to, or the Good Neighbor policy essentially would allow funds other than federal funds to work on these projects. So assuming what you're all talking about is we've got it teed up, we got to get it to the finish line. Is that what you're saying? I hope. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you're absolutely correct. We would love to see this get over the finish line through the legislation. So this is a top priority. And when both Senator Dockstader and Representative Heiner reached out to me, what can we do? How can we get Good Neighbor Authority, growing on the Bridger Teton? I turned to specifically the great work you've already done. Said, let's get this over the finish line, because this is going to give us the ability to do exactly what we're talking about today. Growing more access to timber on our National Forest Service lands, as well as on our BLM lands. So this is a great tool. And I think it's just helping get this really over the finish line with this committee.
Good. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Dockstader.
Assistant
Go ahead.
Forester kind of sparked my memory on when he was talking about cooperation. And I need to make a clarification when I was saying board feet, it was actually continuous cover forestry, but so I need that correction. But he talked about cooperation. I've had an opportunity to visit with all the parties, even those overseeing the whole forest, and I feel a sense of cooperation that I haven't seen in a lot of years here, covering the forest, not just from the standpoint of public service, but in the media as well. We may have an opportunity here that everybody's saying it's probably time. It's probably time to bring some of that timber out. It's time to make some of those fire breaks that Representative Heiner said. We have an opportunity here because people are saying both are good. We just need an office to coordinate it through, which is the State Forestry Office. So that's where our amendment comes through.
Thank you, Senator. Anybody else? Well, thank you all for being here. No, it's, I think we've got a little break in the clouds here in Wyoming for the timber industry, and we need to saddle that horse up and ride it as far as we can, no question. And just with, what's coming out of the Trump administration, the roadless rule got lifted. I mean, that was a big deal from the USDA, Brooke Collins, more board feet mandates. I mean, it's time to get in the game here and work with the Good Neighbor policy to further all of these efforts. So I think we're heading in the right direction, at least from this committee, and we're trying to do what we can, no question. Yeah. All right, committee. Guess anything else? Senator Dockstader, you got
Mr.
something?
Chairman, we got the amendment that you mentioned in where we take the restrictions off. Would our co-chairs agree that that would be the approach to do that, run it as an amendment, to take those restrictions off from our previous bill? We've already done that.
I think go ahead, LSO. I think we've already pulled those restrictions off of there, and we got that. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the bill draft does remove the restrictions, so there would be no limit on the number of full-time employee positions or at-will employee contract positions that could be employed by the state forester through Good Neighbor Authority.
Mr. Chairman, could we follow up with those in the room? If that's the process that works best for everyone.
Sure. Anybody want to comment on that process that we're going forward that was just described? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think the process that you've outlined here in the bill revision is going to do exactly what we needed to at this time. As Kelly mentioned, the flexibility that's going to be provided here, not only in the positions that we need to keep people here and actually take these larger projects and carry it the whole way to the end with full-time employee, but also you opening up our ability to look for different sources of funding than just the Forest Service as they struggle through some of their budget woes right now. We do have tons of examples across the states of working with NGOs, working with private industry, and even in some cases, private landowners that just want to see the work get done across the fence. So I really do think this is exactly what we need. This will be a great first step. And if there's anything after this, we'll already have started to build that program and have the momentum behind it.
Thank you for that. Go
And
ahead.
Chairman Ide, I can
Oh,
add a little
Kelly,
bit.
go ahead.
Yeah, let me
Yes,
add.
Go ahead, Ms. Norris.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit. One thing we haven't brought up in regards to the importance of being able to have the flexibility with hiring has a lot to do with opportunity. As Senator Dockstader is talking about, the desire to want to work with the states has really ramped up currently with our Forest Service partners. One of the things we are working on is updating our shared stewardship agreement. And within that agreement, we're looking at much longer term, larger area projects so that we can really secure timber and access to timber through G&A longer than even 5 years. We're talking 10 years, looking at maybe a whole district in a forest and having state forestry manage that. Those type of opportunities we will be able to fulfill and commit to as this amendment in this bill occurs. Because right now it's going to be very difficult to take on and say in shared stewardship, we're going to agree to do all this work if we're still limited by how much staff we can have. So being able to, again, have that flexibility is exactly what we're going to need. And we're going to tie it with and set it aside and plan it with our federal partners where it's scalable, where we can also bring it back down by having that flexibility. And that's really key here is we're looking at this as a sustainable long-term plan. We're working with each of our forests on what are we trying to achieve. So for a while there, because of ramp up, we've been really having meetings on just getting the wood out of and accessible in the first year. So it's available to mills who are really struggling. And now it's what are we going to do for the next 5 years? How are we going to achieve these targets for the next 10? And so again, this is to Senator Dockstader's point, this is exactly what we're going to need to take some of the opportunities that are being discussed in the future.
Thank you. Representative or Majority Floor Leader Heiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I realize that it's improper for someone on this table to ask a question of the committee. So I'm going to address my comments so I don't ask a question. I am not sure whether you have voted already to sponsor this piece of legislation as a committee. I have read through the draft. I support it. I think it's a wonderful next step in what we need to do. And so I would support if you decide or have already decided to sponsor this legislation. I applaud you for that.
Thank you for that. And it is, correct me if I'm wrong, it's signed, sealed, and delivered out of the committee. Yep. So thanks for just hitting it on it hard so we make sure that that's where it's headed to the House of Representatives and the Senate. Yes. Okay. Anything else? Thank you all for being here and testifying on that. It's good to hear all of that over just so, and what's going on in your neck of the woods there too. So we can see. Go ahead, Senator
Mr.
Dockstader.
Chairman, I want to just thank the committee and co-chairs. We have, as you've heard it said, we've got an opportunity now to feel a shift in the momentum. And my colleague here knows it and sees it because he lives in that world. And I think we should take an opportunity and go to work.
Amen. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I would motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thanks, committee.
You.